Bridge Deer here. It's been a hot second since I sat down and filmed literally anything, especially like this. I mean, obviously I'm not gaming right now. I actually haven't done more than just The Sims, and I forgot to put my microphone on this thing. Yay!
2 hours later.
Alright, I am back. So yeah, mic is on now, which now I'm just going to be staring at it for the rest of the video. Anyway, so yeah, where was I? I was saying I hadn't filmed anything in a while. I actually haven't filmed anything since February 4th, which were the two Catherine videos that have been uploaded since then. They were pre-records, obviously. I mean, I think I even say that they were in those videos, but you might think it's a little weird that I know the exact date those were filmed on, and that is because soon after I filmed those two videos, I ended up in the ER. Not because of those videos, obviously, I mean. But yeah, so it's been kind of really hard lately to kind of cope, I guess. Transition, I don't know what it is. Essentially, I was diagnosed with something new from this ER visit. And yes, I'll give you the whole story on that in a second, or at least a condensed version, because yeah, I have a tendency of just talking way too much and too long. It's coping mechanism apparently. But yeah, so I just haven't felt well enough to film again or legitimately even kind of look at myself at all like in a while. That sounded really like emo, whatever. So what happened? Well, essentially that day I was feeling super productive. What was it? I just had moved January 15th into this place. I hadn't really done a lot of anything with YouTube. So I decided I was going to clean my house that day, make myself up, and jump on Catherine for a while, pre-record a few videos, and so on and so forth. Yeah, I guess this is what I had to admit later on when I was in the ER, essentially, and to the paramedics who came. I was not taking care of myself very well. Like, I haven't been for a long time. It got worse in October. I ended up, there's a whole drama that I won't get into, and we ended up having to move due to other circumstances that had nothing to do with what was in October. It was just a mess. Let's just say it was a freaking mess. And so I wasn't eating, like I was eating maybe once a day, which for me isn't always the worst thing, I guess, because I have Crohn's disease, so sometimes it's a little hard to eat. But I was doing that every single day. I wasn't really... I don't really drink a lot either, like liquids, because again, I have a lot of conflicting medical issues. So one of them is interstitial cystitis, which causes my bladder to be super inflamed. So I don't drink a lot of things to keep that calm. And once we moved, those two things just skyrocketed. I was barely eating once a day. I literally maybe had a single glass of water in like every 2 or 3 days. So yeah, I was kind of heading down this path, but in hindsight, I can see it. At the time I did not, because I was all in my own world and stuff like that. So as I said, I was feeling good. I sat down, I filmed those videos. That last one that I posted was a pain in the ass to do because I died. Like literally, it took me like almost 2 hours to film that because I have no idea. And I had to edit those videos after all was said and done, and it was super weird because I knew what happened after I filmed them, like literally about an hour after I filmed those. I know what happens, but at that time I didn't know, and I looked like completely fine. I was acting fine. It was really weird, to say the least. So yeah, film those, was really excited, being like, I did work, and I'm so sorry. I went from living from one busy road to another busy road, so there might be noise, hoping it's fixed a little bit. Anyway, so I was like really happy for myself. I cleaned my house, I filmed, so I made myself dinner, which was probably the first time I ate that day. I, poured myself a glass of, I have to admit, Diet Coke instead of water, that it had been in my fridge for at least 3 weeks, so that it did not taste the greatest. But yeah, sat down to watch YouTube, and literally an hour after I filmed those videos, I started feeling really, dizzy, which hasn't been something I haven't dealt with before. Like, I've gone to the doctor repeatedly in the last year of being dizzy. We never really fully figured out what it was, so that's what, again, I was just like, oh, well, for some reason it has come back randomly, and it started making me feel a bit sick, and I'm like, okay, usually when this happens, I just need to stand up a little bit and kind of like work my shoulders out. I mean, it happens. So I stood up and started feeling even worse. The dizziness just started like escalating exponentially. The room started spinning, and I mildly was like starting to freak out. But for me, I have a lot of like panic issues. So when an actual problem starts to arise, my fight or flight doesn't kick in, and I stay pretty calm. So even though I was like, I started panicking for like 5 seconds, and then that switch just turned itself off, and I was like, no, this isn't something I can deal with. This is fine. I just, I probably pinched something standing up, or like maybe I need a glass of water or something, whatever. So, but first I had to use the bathroom, as usual. Always have to. I have 2 disorders that cause me to have to use the bathroom all the time. So I'm like, yeah, I'll just do that and grab some water, sit down. This is a little weird, but whatever. So I actually texted my friend while I was in the bathroom saying, hey, I'm really dizzy for some reason, because he lives like 20 minutes away from me, so I thought he could come sit with me if it didn't calm down. Little did I know that he just got into the shower. So yeah, couldn't do a lot of help there. That's okay. Still love you anyway, dude. But yeah, I started feeling a little better, so I was like, okay, cool. And it kind of occurred to me, like, I should really be concerned right now, though, because the dizziness was still there, but I felt less sick. Well, I stood up from using the bathroom and almost instantly did a face plant on my tiled floor. That'd been great. As soon as I stood up, I just felt like my heart was about to explode out of my chest. Everything started spinning. Within less than a minute, my vision started tunneling, which has never, oh no, it only has happened to me one other time in my life. And I didn't like that the first time around. I started shaking uncontrollably. I ended up stepping out of the bathroom because my brain was like, you're gonna pass out. You don't want to hit this tile, hit the carpet instead. I'm like, I can do this. I can faint on the carpet. Logic. So at about that point, I decided it was probably time to call an emergency line. My friend was probably still in the shower at this point, and my wife was at work, and so was my other friend who had been close to me. This was like 8 o'clock at night too, by the way. So they were both at work, and I really have no one else because I moved 40 minutes away from where I was beforehand. So I couldn't call like my mom or anyone. So yeah, sorry, I hear somebody out in the hallway. So I ended up calling 911, which I've never done before. So I didn't know what to do and what to say because I'm a very anxious person, if nobody can tell by any of my videos. And I don't like calling people on the phone. It's very scary. Very scary. I don't like it. And so I legit was like sitting there being like, if I passed out, I wouldn't have to call 911 then. But then I'd be passed out for some unknown reason. So that scared me more than the phone. So yeah, I ended up calling. It freaked me out because you know how like normally the phone like rings a few times and then people pick it up? Yeah, it doesn't do that. It didn't do that. So it literally, she just like instantly picks up the phone and it's like 911 and I'm like, literally just the noise I made as I'm like half passed out. At this point, I can't feel my feet and I'm losing feeling in my hands. Everything's turning black around me, and that's my response on the phone, which was great. She probably thought a pterodactyl had called her. And she's like, oh, hello, can I help you? Type of stuff. And I'm like, the first thing out of my mouth, which is still very embarrassing to me, is, hi, I'm calling for myself. I think I'm passing out. She's like, oh, okay. I'm laughing now, but at the time I'm like, why? Why am I like that? But, yeah, the whole conversation kind of went like that. She just ended up asking me questions repeatedly, being like, is this normal? I'm like, well, I wouldn't be calling if it was normal, but thank you for asking. I accidentally gave her my old address and had to correct it, being like, no, I'm not, like, mentally incompetent right now. It's just that it was super hard to think. She had to repeatedly keep telling me to sit down because for some reason I just couldn't get my butt to sit. I would sit down, forget that I had to sit down and stand back up, and then things would just get worse. Yeah. By the time I got off the phone with her, my entire mouth was numb, so I was slurring really bad. I was really hoping that when the paramedics came in, they didn't think I was on drugs or drunk or something. I also was a little afraid they would think I was having a panic attack of some kind, so I was debating whether to tell them that I had PTSD and a panic disorder because I knew that's not what was going on, but I was, you know, it's one of the things that are relevant but irrelevant at the same time when it comes to medical stuff. The paramedics came in, didn't take them that long really. It was a thing. They were really nice. I really like didn't mind them too much. I was super nervous. Funny enough, before they came in, for some reason I was like trying to clean my house. Like I kept again forgetting I had to sit, so I was trying to clean up, and I had to put my cat in his little crate so that he didn't run out the door and stuff like that. And they're like, no, you can, you know, just like sit down, please. We need to talk to you and stuff like that. Yeah, because I was trying to showcase that I was okay, but not okay. Like, my brain kept telling me they might think you're having a panic attack. They probably think you're having a panic attack. So I kept stating over and over that, yes, I do. Like, I did straight out of the gate tell them that I had PTSD, that I had a severe anxiety disorder, and this was not it, bro. Never had this. I've had both of those for years, and I've never had to call 911 like this. Like, I think I probably stated it way too many times. The other thing, they were asking me if I had any, like, health issues, and I'm like, yes! For reference, I have Crohn's disease, you know, autoimmune, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, or it's Ehlers, I don't really know. People keep correcting me either way. And interstitial cystitis. Both of those last two are big, like, pronunciation issues for people. The funny thing is the paramedics looked at me and they're like, cool, we know what one of those are. I'm like, cool. That's kind of what I always expected. But anyway, passing out is not a symptom of any of these, by the way. Help! After, didn't take that long. It was maybe 5 minutes. It felt like forever because I still felt like I was in the process of passing out, but like it was receding, but I still felt like my heart was going to explode at this point. And I was getting really nervous because they were doing they did like a blood sugar test on me, and like they were and blood pressure and stuff like that. And I was getting really nervous because they weren't saying anything. And I was just afraid that they were going to leave me like that because I was like, oh God, what if they just left? I feel like I'm going to die right now, but not really. Like I wasn't ever worried that I was dying because I don't know. I just feel like it wouldn't feel like that. I don't know. Anyway, What they ended up telling me in the end was that originally, from the call and from walking in straight out the gate of looking at me, they thought I was having a panic attack because of like the symptoms that I had said. I was shaking really bad to the point where I couldn't even hold things. I was slurring because my brain was all to mud and my mouth was still numb, my limbs were still numb. But they decided that I wasn't having a panic attack because my heart rate was at one point 165. It had dropped down to 162 before we left, but they're like, that's very concerning. Like, that's something they didn't think was panic attack worthy. Like, I don't know. And no, I've never had a heart rate that high on a panic attack either. So I got to take a ride in an ambulance for like the second time in my life, because I had a car accident when I was 9. So, I mean, I had done that before, so I wasn't that freaked out, but I felt bad for this poor paramedic, like, in the back with me, because I kept cracking jokes, and I'm like, I'm sorry, this is how I cope with things. I just joke, and I'm sorry. I also had to apologize because Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is a connective tissue disorder, if you didn't know that. Maybe I'll make I used to have a video on it, but I'm remaking it eventually. And it causes my veins to be very temperamental. They like to slip and slide, and sometimes they'll just decide, no, we're just going to yeet the needle right out, or we're just going to like bust. So he was having a hell of a time in the back of that ambulance. He's like, usually I can get it on the first or second try. For me, he had to try 3 times and gave up because it would not. It just would not. He could not get anything to stay in my arm. It would just... But yeah, we got there and I was like, yay, we're getting help. But also that was the most expensive fucking ride in my life. Because America. Yeah, I went into the ER. That was fun, being wheeled around. They had another guy try my IV. He took him 2 tries and it still came out anyway. Yeah, they had to put it back in because it just started, yeah, no. What I was told when I went in was that I was probably just severely dehydrated, which is a common thing that people come in with. And I had called my mom to tell her where I was going to be, so at least somebody knew where I was at the time. And that's what her suggestion was too, is that because of my bad habits of drinking less than a cup of water in like 2 days, that was probably what it was. And so I was like, cool. It's nothing to really worry about. I just need to fix this issue that I have apparently and try a little harder. I was there for about, I think it was like 2.5 hours at this point. I'd gone through the first bag of fluids and my heart rate was still pretty high. It was between 145 and 130, which was still tachycardia, even though I had 1 bag of fluids in me. It was getting really frustrated because I just wanted to go home. My feet had most of my limbs and my face had regained feeling, but my feet still were a little numb. It kind of sucked to stand up and walk a bit. I just felt a little dizzy, and I kind of forced them to let me stand up and walk because there was no way I was peeing in a bedpan that day. I was already having a hard time. I was not adding that onto it. I was getting frustrated because of all that, being in pain, just wanting to go home, wanting to figure this out. And I was also getting concerned because my heart rate was not going down like they wanted to. They had drawn blood on me twice. When I look back at my records, they had run the same test twice to double check them, which good. I mean, good on you guys for double checking. It was just that the reason why they had to double check is that everything came back 100% fine. There was no issues in any of that. Of course, they drug tested me as well, which I know they have to, and they also pregnancy tested me even. Like, I'm a lesbian. Like, come on, why? Anyway, like, thank you for calling me a liar that I wasn't pregnant, but okay. You do you, medical field. Anyway, I mean, they checked pretty well. Everything came back completely normal, 100% normal. They even did chest x-rays on me. That came back completely normal. But I eventually just asked if I could just like go home after being like, I think the second bag was about 1/3 finished at that point, and I was just like, can I just go home and just drink a lot of water, because this is causing my body a lot of issues, and I just am tired and want to go home. And what they ended up doing is doing a, like, I heard it called like a poor man's tilt table test on me. It's not really, they just have you like lie down for a little while, check your heart rate, have you sit up, check your heart rate, and then stand up and see how your heart fluctuates. Because technically when you move positions like that, it's supposed to go up just a little bit and come back down, and that's completely normal. Well, when she did it to me, I went from a normal resting heart rate when I was lying down to when I sat up and stood up, it skyrocketed again. When I stood up, it went all the way up to 150 again. So she's like, well, you're still dehydrated. That's a sign that you're still dehydrated and you need to lay back down. Well, technically I wasn't laying down. I was actually in a sitting position the entire time. She's just like, sorry, you need to finish that bag. You're still dehydrated, blah, 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 blah. And I just, at that rate, I was like, I'm not dehydrated. I cannot be dehydrated after almost a bag and a half of this crap. By the end of all this, we'll just skip straight to the end, because I was there for almost 3.5 hours, 4. I didn't leave until midnight. My heart rate was still too high after 2 bags. It was more about 130. So it did go down about 30 beats, but like not like, that's still tachycardia. And so like we just decided at the end of the night that I was going to go home, because my friend pointed out very much to me that if I stayed overnight, it was just going to exacerbate it more, because I was not going to sleep and I was going to be stressed out the entire time, and my heart it won't give my heart rate a chance to come back down again at all because of stress. So I ended up going home. My wife was home at that point, so I just stayed with her. I had to make a cardiology appointment the next day. So I ended up seeing the cardiologist the next day, and I kind of was expecting what she said, and she told me that I most likely had POTS syndrome, or I don't know why, it's POTS essentially. It is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome is what it stands for. So more abbreviations for my diagnosis list. And I was suspicious that it might be that, because I already have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and EDS and POTS for a lot of people go hand in hand. What it technically means, well, what POTS technically means is exactly what it says, is that when you change positions from lying down to sitting up to standing, you end up with tachycardia of something, like just your heart rate just goes up, and it's because of the, I'm trying to think of like a good way to, it's because of when you stand up, gravity pulls all your blood down to your feet, and your body will compensate and bring it back up again. And that for most people, it just does it and you'll never even know it did it. For mine, it ended up that night going all down to my feet. My body did not constrict my veins like they were supposed to. So my blood went down, my heart rate skyrocketed up, my blood pressure went up a little bit too, trying to compensate, getting everything back up again, and it could not do it, and hence I started passing out. And yeah, I was told it's, not really dangerous or anything like that. It's not going to cause any issues for my heart in the future or anything like that. It's just going to be highly annoying. And so I've been dealing with that. I have to, like I was told, I had to change my diet, obviously, because it was not good beforehand. I have to start drinking a crap ton more water. I actually have a water bottle right down here. Yeah, I have to add more salt into my diet, which for me is a little funny, because before this, at the beginning of the year, I was actually going to try to eat less salt and drink less caffeine. And when we moved, I started doing both those things a lot more, which I'm finding out now is that for me, for my, I guess, POTS, caffeine helps it. So in the weeks leading up to me almost passing out, I actually had cut out caffeine. So that was probably one of the things that factored in that night. I don't really know how long this video is going to be. I just wanted to get the story out for mostly my sake because I have memory problems and just I wanted to talk about it. I've talked about it a lot with people around me. I wouldn't say that I'm like upset, but I'm also upset at the same time. As I said, I thought my diagnoses stopped in 2019. I was thinking that I was going to start getting my life together again. I mean, for about 5 years of my life, I was too sick to do anything, really. And then this came around and it happened so quickly out of nowhere. Like, it went from I was handling it fine, like if it was kind of pre or still there, but not enough to really cause much issue. I was doing fine, and then it hit me like a dump truck. And I have to relearn how to like manage my body, essentially. I've had a lot of anxiety over it. I think part of it is because POTS can cause adrenaline surges when the tachycardia hits pretty bad, I guess. Like, I'm almost always tachycardic in some way if I'm not laying down. I also just get anxious super easily. I'm really anxious for kind of my future. What am I doing after, like what am I gonna do after this? I may make another video more centering on that. I began my channel as doing mostly medical health things and mental, and it was at that point where I didn't want to talk about it anymore, but I'm thinking I might start talking about it again. Mostly because this has been really, I think this was just like that one thing that, like that one last card on the tower before everything fell down. It's like hitting me that, I don't know, it's just hitting me that this is the way my body is now. It's the way it's going to be, and there's not much I can do about that. So yeah, that's why I've been gone for a while, and I'm going to slowly start making videos again when I feel okay enough to. I've stabilized enough. Because there was a whole time period where after this where my body just couldn't figure out what it was doing, so I kept like falling over. Like, turns out I have like the form of POTS where I don't pass out, like fully faint, because I know there's some people who do just fully faint and hit the ground. I do not have that. I will start to, but I won't fully faint. So I've had a few instances where I ended up having to like just drop to the ground because my legs were like, no. But that's calmed down a lot. I'm getting more stable at it. So I'm able to do more things again. So yeah, that's where I am right now. So this is where we're gonna end the video right now. I'm hoping it's not too long and too boring and too meandering, but sometimes that's how things are. So everyone, have a nice day, evening, whatever. Stay as healthy as you can, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.